What's good, people? We back with another video today, and in this one, we're gonna be talking about the NFL season. It's over with. We got the playoffs next weekend. I can't wait for them. And I thought it'd be a little funny to go back in time before the season, September 9th, as you can see in the video, and look at my predictions, what I thought the season was gonna turn into, and compare it to what actually happened. I think this will be pretty funny. Some of my predictions I know are kind of wacky, but fuck it, let's go.
It's your boy.
Let's skip a little bit.
Gaming.
All right, so hold on, let me mute that. All right, so AFC North, we start. Obviously, I fucked up big time with the AFC North. Browns fell off this year. Baker was hurt. The whole Odell Beckham debacle. The offense wasn't it. So with Baker being hurt, they missed the playoffs. They weren't good enough. Is what it is. Really, Baker and Lamar's injuries just destroyed my predictions. You can't predict injuries, but is what it is. I kind of by accident got the Steelers right. They ended, what did they end? Was it like 9-7-1, I think? Yeah, the Steelers actually ended 9-7-1, so I predicted 9-8. But obviously, I didn't have them in the playoffs. But what I predicted kind of came true. Ben's a shell of his former self, but they have Najee, all those receivers. The defense is still great. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season in his coaching tenure, which is amazing. But they have so much talent that even with a bad offensive line and Big Ben just being a shell, they still somehow managed to make the playoffs. Big ups to the Steelers, man. Even though they're gonna get crushed by the Chiefs next weekend, respect. They made the playoffs, man. That's crazy. And then Cincinnati, I had them going 3-14 this year. Man, listen, I thought that Joe Burrow was gonna get hurt again. I thought that he was on his way to becoming the next Andrew Luck. I thought this offensive line was putrid. And to be fair, Joe Burrow is the most hit and the most sacked quarterback in the league this year. So the offensive line still needs to get better. But, I didn't expect Jamar Chase to be a top 3-4 receiver in the league his rookie year. That caught me by surprise. I did love Jamar Chase coming out, but I wasn't expecting that. But probably the biggest surprise was the defense, man. I wrote down some names. The Bengals had a pretty good free agency. In terms of bringing in Larry Ogunjobi, former defensive tackle on the Browns. I'm familiar with him. He was a good player for us. They brought in Trey Hendrickson on that big deal from the Saints. A lot of people speculated on if he could reach the next level, because on the Saints he had Cam Jordan and oh man, there's a DT I love. David Onyemata was on that team. They had a couple other guys too. They had a damn good front seven, a damn good defensive line. So a lot of people didn't think Hendrickson could do it on his own, but add in Ogunjobi, DJ Reader, BJ Hill. He didn't really have to do it on his own, and he had a great season for the Bengals, man. They really upgraded their defensive line and their secondary, bringing in Chidobe Awuzie from the Cowboys and Eli Apple. I know he gets a bunch of crap, but he played pretty well this year, man. So big respect to the Bengals. They had a good draft and a good free agency, and that's why they're the kings of the North. Respect to them. So let me see. I had Steelers I pretty much got right. Bengals I completely whiffed on. The Browns and Ravens fell to injury, so is what it is. Let's go to AFC South. That should be next. Yeah. So AFC South. Let me see. So the Titans went 12-5, and are the 1 seed. So I didn't get that right, but I did predict them to win the division. They won a little bit more games, and credit to them because they didn't have AJ Brown for a lot of the season, and they didn't have Derrick Henry for like half the season, if not more than half. So the Titans are going to be a tough out, man, in the playoffs. Colts, I was lower on the Colts, but I did think that they could win more late because their schedule was incredibly easy at the end, and they should have made the playoffs. I got the Colts wrong, even though they still missed the playoffs. Somehow lost to the Jags at the end. That's just awful. I feel for Colts fans for that. That's brutal. And then Jaguars and Texans, I was super low on them. I thought they'd each split with each other. But the Texans, to their credit, I want to talk about the Texans real quick. David Culley, he overachieved like a motherfucker, man. I hope he doesn't get fired. He probably will. But I hope he doesn't. Either way, he got a bag, He's an older guy, so he got millions of dollars. Big respect to him. He's gonna get paid the next couple of years too, because it's a multi-year contract and it's fully guaranteed. So whether he gets to keep the job or not, I don't know, but he gets to keep the money, so that's good. Jaguars, at times it felt like they were trying to sabotage Trevor Lawrence. I really didn't know. They had no plan. It felt like they had no plan. And we'll see what they do with the coaching staff this upcoming season. I still think they need to fire their GM, Trent Baalke. I move off him. You moved off Urban Meyer already. Start fresh, bring in some good guys to develop Trevor Lawrence. Maybe a Brian Dable if he wants to join. The other thing is, I don't know who would want to join the Jaguars. The only thing they have is Trevor Lawrence. But that could be enough, because when you fix the quarterback, that's all you need, man. So Jaguars and Texans. Texans overachieved. Jaguars they won more games, but they were just as bad as I expected them to be. So the South. Yeah. Let's go to the next one. AFC East. Okay, so I was high on the Pats. They did make the playoffs. They didn't quite win. I think they won 10 games, was it? Yeah. So they won 10 games. I had them winning 12 games. Who did I have them losing to? I'll check this out real quick. Let's see. Patriots. Which one was the Patriots? Is it AFC East? Here we go. Patriots. So I had them losing to Cleveland. They crushed us. I had them getting swept by Buffalo. They actually won one of those. I had them losing to Tampa, of course, and the Chargers. They beat the Chargers. They beat the Chargers bad. They got swept by Miami. I didn't see that coming. And who else did they lose to? They lost to Indy. Yeah, so they did lose more games than I anticipated, but I predicted the Pats to make the playoffs. I thought they would be good. They have a great team. They got all their opt-outs back. They addressed the quarterback position. Regardless of what you think of Mac Jones, he's a solid, he's a solid quarterback. You're not going to ask too much of him, but they didn't need a lot of him. Look back to the famous game against Buffalo where he only threw the ball 3 times and they still won. So they didn't really need too much from Mac Jones this year because they had everything else right. Bills, of course, first place. What was their record? Bills were 11-6. Yeah, so I was lower on the Bills coming into the year, but even then, I still thought they'd be a 13-win team. So, yeah, Josh Allen kind of fell off at times. He wasn't, he didn't have that amazing year he had last year where he was just from start to finish dominant. He had some stinkers in there. And I'm not expecting the Bills to be a Super Bowl threat this year. I think they could be one and done. They play the Patriots next week, so that's going to be a lot of fun. But they're still a good team. They have a bunch of weapons, bunch of receivers, tight end as well, Dawson Knox, Josh Allen with that arm. He can explode at any given Sunday. So The defense was, the defense struggles against the run. So obviously that's going to be the Patriots' game plan next week. Now the Dolphins at 10-7, they finished 9-8. Yeah, right about where I had them. I had them missing the playoffs as well, I think. Um, yeah, the Dolphins are kind of in the same bubble as the Broncos or the what's the other team that's very similar to them? The Bears too, where they have the talent on defense. They have some pieces on offense, but they don't have the quarterback. And I like Tua as a person. He's a good guy, of course, but is he necessarily the problem? I don't know, but he's not the answer. He's not the solution. They're gonna have to move up Tua at some point. And when you're in that position where you don't have confidence in your quarterback, this is what's gonna happen. You're gonna be good enough, but you're gonna be good enough to avoid a top 5 pick, but you're gonna be bad to where you're not a Super Bowl contender. So the Dolphins are kind of stuck in purgatory right now, and they just fired Brian Flores. I don't know why they did that. Stupid move. They kept Chris Greer. I would have done the opposite, and maybe I would have given Brian Flores GM, responsibilities too. See what happens. But they fired him. I don't know what they're gonna do now. Dolphins could be 4th place next year, and in fact, I'm predicting them to be 4th place next year. I had the Jets at 9-8. I whiffed on them. They only won 4 games. I was a lot higher on Salah. His defense was not good this year. I was a lot higher on Zach Wilson and the combination of him and, is it Mike LaFleur? Matt LaFleur's brother, yeah, Mike LaFleur. I thought they were gonna hit the ground running. They really didn't get a groove until the last maybe like 3-4 games of the season. So I was just way too high on the Jets. They dealt with some injuries too. Carl Lawson, Mekhi Becton, to name a couple. Their secondary needs a lot of help. So, we'll see what they do in the draft. They have 2 high picks, as well as a bunch of picks in the 2nd and 3rd round. So they have plenty of assets to get better quickly. We'll see what happens. AFC West now, I had the Chiefs as the 1 seed and 15-2. So they go 12-5. Damn. They lost 3 more games than I expected. So I want to see this real quick. Chiefs right here. So I probably had them losing to the Chargers. Yeah, and the Packers. So they beat the Packers because of that weird COVID game. Who else they lose? They lost to the Bills. They got crushed by the Bills, crushed by the Titans. They lost to the Bengals too. And who else they lose to? Chargers and the Ravens week 2. Yeah, okay. So interesting. Yeah, so I mean the Chiefs are still amazing. They're probably going to make the Super Bowl from the AFC. That's what I would pick, even though they did lose to the Bills, the Bengals, and the Titans. They lost to literally every other division champion in the AFC, but it's so hard to bet against Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid and Kelsey and Cheetah, and the defense is playing well, even though they kind of, I don't know. I mean, they played well against the Broncos. Drew Lock kind of stunk, but yeah, I think it's hard to bet against the Chiefs, man. They're probably going to make the Super Bowl. Chargers missed the playoffs, man. I was so high on the Chargers this year, but similarly to what I said with the Jets a little bit, they're young. They're a young team. They're still learning how to win. A rookie head coach, and it showed plenty of times. Staley going for 4th downs when he really didn't need to, in inopportune positions, bad decision making, and the Chargers still curse, man. They're just cursed. I don't know what to say about the Chargers. Broncos, what did they finish? Like 7-10? Yeah, they were 7-10. I kind of got the Broncos right. I had them winning 1 more game. But like I said with the Dolphins, like I'll say with the Bears, when you don't have the quarterback position figured out, it doesn't matter how great your roster is. I had the Broncos as a top 5 roster going into the year. But if your quarterback position is poor, doesn't matter. That's what happened. I thought Vic Fangio could have used another year, fix the quarterback position. Probably should have taken Justin Fields. You know, as great as Pat Surtain is, I didn't like that pick because they need a quarterback, and Justin Fields was right there for him. Even Mac Jones would have been interesting, man. Um, yeah, they screwed up with their first round pick last year, and they're paying for it. Raiders, another team I completely whiffed on. I didn't like their offensive line coming into the year. I didn't think their defense was going to be good at all. And similarly to what I said with the Bengals, the defense was the biggest surprise for me with the Raiders. Max Crosby played like a top 5 to 10 pass rusher in the league, man. He balled out. Yannick Ngakoue was a good signing. Um, you know, the Raiders, I don't even know how they made the playoffs because so much went on this year with Gruden and the whole Ruggs situation, which is sad. They had another corner who they cut who had a DUI as well. Like, just low IQ from these players, man. But they still found a way. Like, Derek Carr deserves some, massive praise for this because, and you check his numbers, they aren't amazing, but man, he was unbreakable all season, steady, sturdy, just a leader, man. And they made the playoffs, man. Big respect. I want them to lose because they play the Bengals next week, and I'm rooting for Joe Burrow heavy. But man, respect to the Raiders, dude. They proved me wrong, big time. Moving on to the NFC North, and let me see. I think I actually got the NFC North right, pretty much. Like, yeah, I had the Packers at 13-4. I had them as a 2 seed though before the season started. They're the 1 seed. Them and Tampa both had 13-4 records, but I'm pretty sure they had a better NFC, a better conference record. So they're the 1 seed. Vikings at 9-8. They finished at 8-9. Yeah, I didn't have them in the playoffs either, I don't think. Yeah, Kirk is good. I like Kirk, but really the defense was bad, man. Mike Zimmer deserved to be fired because if you're a defensive-minded coach, what do you have to offer? The defense stunk the last 2 years. So, unlike Vic Fangio, who was coaching a top 10 defense this year, Zimmer makes sense to me. He should have been gone. And Rick Spielman's gone too. They invested a lot in the corner position and got very little to no results. So, I mean, that makes sense too. So, the Bears at 6-11, they actually finished 6-11. Yeah, so same thing. Good roster, good enough roster to win, but this is a little bit different. They do have Justin Fields. I like Fields, but Fields didn't really mesh with Matt Nagy. You could almost see it too. Like, when they had Foles in there or Dalton, the offense kind of ran a little bit more smoother, more on script anyways. So, Bears' biggest thing, get a Brian Dable in there. Get somebody who can, who knows how to deal with quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, and build up a young quarterback like Justin Fields. That's the biggest key. They need an offensive-minded guy to get Justin Fields where he needs to be. And then the Lions, man, they only won 3 games. I had them at 2 wins, but I was very impressed with the Lions and Dan Campbell specifically. They played tough, man. They were in a lot of games. I expected them to get crushed a lot. Dan Campbell and David Culley, they deserve respect. They deserve applause. I know both teams had bad years, but they fought tooth and nail in a lot of games. They were competitive in a lot of games. Probably should have won a little bit more, but they lost a lot of games at the end. I'm very interested to see the Lions continue to build this thing with Dan Campbell. They had a first-year GM too, who I'm forgetting his name, but I'm interested to see what the Lions do in the future. Moving on to the NFC South, I had the Bucs at 15-2. They ended up losing 2 more games, right? Here you go, Bucs. Yeah, 13-4. So I think I actually got 2 of the losses right. I remember I had them losing to the Saints and not the Chargers, the Rams. Yeah. So they actually lost to the Rams. They lost to the Saints. They got swept by the Saints, though. I thought they'd win one at least. And what else did they lose to? They didn't lose to Indy. Definitely not the Dolphins or the Bears. They beat the Eagles. They beat Dallas. Who'd they lose to? Let's look it up. I don't even know who their other loss was to. So, let's see. Yeah, they beat the Falcons, lost to the Rams, beat the Pats, Dolphins, Eagles, crushed the Bears, Jesus. Oh, they lost to Washington. Wow. Fair play, Washington. Didn't see that coming. Alright, yeah. So they lost 4 games. I had them losing 2 coming into the year. I had them as the 1 seed. They're ending as the 2 seed. You know, they got dominated by injuries this year, man. Chris Godwin obviously is out for the year. They dealt with a bunch of defensive line and secondary injuries all year. The whole Antonio Brown debacle, he's not going to be there. Mike Evans is dealing with a bulky hamstring. So it's going to be tough. I don't see the Bucs making the Super Bowl. I didn't before the year, but now with all the injuries they're dealing with, it's going to be difficult, very difficult. Now, interesting enough, I had the Falcons at 2nd place with 7 wins. Let me see this. So they did finish 7-10. So yeah, I got the Falcons right. Saints finished 9-8, so they did a wee bit better than I expected. That pretty much comes down to Sean Payton, I guess, because they had every reason to suck this year. All the injuries they dealt with, Sean Payton just kind of led them. They were steady all year. Finished 9-8. Just missed the playoffs because the Niners came back in that crazy game against the Rams, but you know, is what it is. And then the Panthers at 3-14. They went 5-12. Yeah, I didn't think the Panthers were going to be good, so we can move off from that. NFC East. This is also where I screwed up big time. So I had Washington winning the division this year at 10-7. They finished 7-10. Ryan Fitzpatrick never played, so that was my expectation. I thought the defense was going to be great, and Ryan Fitzpatrick was going to make a handful of plays to win some games. They never had Fitzpatrick. The defense stunk too, so I would probably move off Ron Rivera, because similarly to what I said about Mike Zimmer, if the defense isn't good, why is he still the head coach? They only won 7 games last year too, so it's not like, you know, I know he made the playoffs that year, but they weren't a good team that year either. So Eagles at 7-10, they won a couple more games than I expected. They finished 9-8 and make the playoffs. I didn't see that coming. But I always thought they were going to be better than a lot of people. A lot of people had them at like 3 wins, 4 wins. You know, the Eagles are very good on the offensive line and the defensive line, and those are the 2 biggest areas you need to be good at. Obviously, you know, discounting the quarterback, to win games in this league. And their schedule was pretty easy as well. They didn't beat a team with a winning record, I think. You know, it helps being in the NFC East. But yeah, props to the Eagles, man. Cowboys I got wrong big time. And it's the same thing with the Bengals and the Raiders. I thought this defense was going to be atrocious. I thought it was going to be ass. And it was good. The defense was really good. The defense, going into the playoffs, I think the defense is actually better than the offense. I never would have said that before the season. So, Cowboys went undefeated in the division as well. You know, Dak looks like a top 3 quarterback against the NFC East, but like a top 16-ish quarterback against everybody else. So, I'm expecting the Cowboys to lose, although it'll be a good game. It'll be close, but I think the Cowboys lose next week to the Niners. And then we have the Giants. I don't even want to talk about the Giants. They won 2 more games than I expected, but the Giants suck. I don't care about them. I don't want to talk about them. NFC West now. I was very high on the NFC West this year. You know, I had the Hawks at 3rd place with a 13-win season. That didn't happen. They were 4th place pretty clearly. They dealt with Russell Wilson's injuries all year. They only won 7 games. you know, I don't know if they should keep Pete Carroll. I'd probably say move off him. We'll see what they do. But the Seahawks, it feels like an end of an era with Russ and Pete Carroll, and the defense kind of falling off. I think they gotta move on, man. I had the Cardinals making the playoffs at 11-6, and they end 11-6, but instead of it being fourth place, it's second place. So funny how that works. I pegged the Cardinals right, but just different slotting in the NFC West. And then I had the Niners and the Rams as two best teams in the division. Rams end 12-5. I had them going 14-3. Same thing with the Niners. I was definitely wrong on the Niners, although they did make the playoffs still. Feels like the end of the Jimmy G era. They got to move off him, go to Trey Lance next year. We'll see what they do in the playoffs. I do expect them to win against Dallas, but then they'd have to go against Green Bay in Lambeau. Jimmy's, hand is kind of messed up. I don't expect them to win that game. So, and then the Rams could go far. I think the Rams will make the title game, the NFC Championship game. I think they'll beat the Cardinals this week, and then they play Tampa. I'm assuming Tampa beats the Eagles. So then they play Tampa, and they match up well against Tampa. So I could see them being in the title game against Green Bay. And that's actually what I predicted before the year: the Rams and Packers in the NFC Championship game. Now, obviously, I got the Browns wrong. I got the Ravens wrong. Let's see. I got the Chiefs right. Chiefs made the playoffs. Patriots made the playoffs. Bills, yep. Bills and Patriots are actually playing. I got that one right. Titans made it as well. So I got 4 of the 6 teams right in the AFC, and then had the Bucks, the Niners, Cardinals, Packers, and the Rams right. I got 5 of the 7. So I got the Hawks wrong, and I got Washington wrong. So it's Dallas and the Eagles. Yeah. And oh yeah, I got the Chargers wrong too. Chargers, Browns, Ravens. So I got 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 4 and 5. Okay, not awful, but not great either. It is what it is. I think my next video I'm gonna detail the playoffs and break down the playoffs, man. So get into for that. Appreciate the love, appreciate the support. Peace.